In the early 90s, when I was a child growing up, we had a lot of these weird and wacky and wonderful creative ToyBiz designs from the 1994 era. This one in particular was, what if Spider-Man was mutated into a point of unrecognizable monstrosity? Personally, I just don't feel like we see enough creativity in action figures anymore, unfortunately. The era of this fun and creative, do whatever the hell we want, it's interesting, it's fun, that's become a bit of a thing of the past, which is a shame, honestly. For this custom, it was purely nostalgia based. The reason why I went into this is because I own this toy, and I imagine many of you guys have also owned this figure as well. One of the reasons why I started this project in the first place was Glenn Webman. He made a video on this guy, the Web Trap Spider-Man. I find myself going back from time to time and just watching his videos. So the idea of this custom was to kind of bring that old ToyBiz figure into the modern age with updated sculpt details and more modern articulation. This guy was created a while back now, 2021, around that time period, 2022 maybe. You'll notice that I'm not just using my traditional green stuff, my go-to. I decided to use Sculpey. Sculpey is a clay that you have to oven bake. To get a broader perspective on what I'd sculpted and to see the detail, I decided to just put a quick base tone down. I know it's incredibly rough, but I just wanted to get a better perspective with the different tones of red and blues. This also allowed me to figure out the areas that needed attention due to paint rub. To allow paint to dry quickly, I like to just stick it out in the Aussie sun, let it soak up all those rays, dries it really quickly. Just doing a quick sand here, making sure all the clearance is there for the articulation to function without any of the paint coming off. Unfortunately, when you do old school full rebuilds like this, you end up running into issues. And the issues was I used Warpath gummy plastic legs, and unfortunately they just wore out. Hasbro gonna Hasbro. It's the risk you run using their products. So back to the drawing board. Bit of kiki. Fix up these loose joints. Unfortunately, the Sculpey is definitely showing its wear and tear values, which definitely do not hold up, unfortunately. It's starting to crumble and fall to pieces. The crotch piece snapped in half just from simply articulating it. thought to myself, if I can glue this back together, add maybe epoxy resin, and start using green stuff sculpt to mend all the errors, then maybe, just maybe, I could kind of hold this thing together. I wanted to start with the looseness of the legs. Surely there was a way to maneuver around this error, this issue, this problem. Consistently problem solving is all part of custom action figures. I inserted several large rods that fixed the issue of the articulation looseness. Due to the design, there is actually two crotch pieces fused together, so therefore both required the brackets and the wires and the glue. And right at this point I'd hit burnout. I'd had enough. This thing had done my head in. I wanted to walk away, but I couldn't. I wanted to know if there was some way, somehow, of making this thing work. As I pushed through the burnout phase, I wanted to somewhat add a slight redesign. The inspiration for this was League of Legends Urgot. Having large shielding on his kneecaps didn't quite make it into the design or play out the way that I wanted it to, but I did downscale them. Also, you'll notice that my design tend to have taken a bit of a crustacean type design. Definitely not what I intended, but the way that it played out, I actually quite enjoyed the process overall. So this process is actually polymorphic plastic, which is little orbs. You boil them, they heat up, they melt, and you can manipulate them. You can also add colors. I used red, simply because it's mostly red and blue that are design of this figure. So then I will make a spider butt from this, which will allow me to reduce the cost of green stuff. So I mixed it all together, squished it onto the butt, and then eventually it turns into a very hard shell plastic. Now I did add little sockets, and that's so the green stuff sculpt that I apply has something to grip onto. At this point I'm just patching in a lot of the crumbling areas of the Sculpey and seeing if I can mend it and keep this custom alive somehow. So I used green stuff, sculpt and milliput over a wire armature that allowed me to get the results that I desired. Gradually building up the layers bit by bit, and then eventually adding the detail. I have to admit, this was probably the most fun part of the entire custom. Having those weird egg sacs underneath the body and the big massive fangs. I had very Lord of the Rings Shelob vibes while sculpting this. All that was left is to paint all the detail and get this to a satisfactory level. So this was the Web Trap Mutant Spider-Man, completely, I'm not gonna say finished, because it was a failed custom. And you know what? From time to time, it's okay to fail. Failure equals success. You need to fail to get up time and time again, from the ashes of ruin, to consistently get better, hone your skills, learn from your mistakes. I had fun making this. It wasn't a complete disaster. I learned that Sculpey just isn't to be used on custom action figures. Its durability just does not stand the test of time. The amount of sculpting detail that you can get, as you can see, is far above any sculpting putty that we can use on custom action figures. The results speak for themselves. It's fantastic, but the durability makes it unusable. So even through my grinding away and trying to get this custom to work, it was ultimately a failure, in a sense. It was a very educational learning process, and definitely something that was worthwhile in the long run. Unfortunately, now he's just going to end up in a tub or in the bin. I have no use for this thing anymore. I could consistently chip away and try to fix this thing, but it would have error after error after error because the Sculpey just doesn't hold up. Also, a major drawback of this design was I used Warpath gummy legs. As you can see, it's barely holding the custom's weight, and the custom isn't heavy. It has double elbows, it's got 4 arms, 4 legs, double knees on each segment as well. You'll notice that it has huge amounts of range. It also has, to this date, the highest articulation count that I've used on any custom action figure ever. What's crazy as well, if you actually notice, it's paintbrush free. Basically the whole joint system is completely, there's no friction points for any kind of paint rub, because that's the first step that I do whenever I create a custom. I go through, make sure all those parts are sanded down, and then I build off that. It's like when a house is built, the first thing they do is they lay the foundation, and then from that foundation they build up. Without that foundation, the house will crumble, fall over, deteriorate, have issues. That's why paint rub is so important, to get out of the way at the start of the customizing process. Again, it's not a finished custom. You can see the paint applications aren't finished. And again, all the issues with the majority of the sculpt kind of breaking off. My kids have actually played with this a fair amount, so I'm surprised it's held up as good as it has, to be honest. Hasbro really needs to address that gummy plastic. Here he is next to my Spider-Man customs. Now these are Storm collectibles, and I originally created the Web Trap Mutant Spider-Man to be part of the Marvel Legends line, but I no longer collect Marvel Legends. So what I'm saying is I would like to update this guy. Not necessarily as heavily sculpted or painted in a certain way, but kind of aesthetically to match the Storm collectibles customs that I already have. I feel like that would be a great upgrade. I was thinking Dimitri. I have two of these guys. I could engineer that and force that together, and as you can see, the size, he's nice and big, and I could definitely extend a lot of the limbs and make him bigger. This is the other Dimitri. I was trying to do a spider venom, and I ultimately decided I didn't want to. I'll find another use for this mold. So if you'd like to keep up to date with what I end up deciding, and you enjoy my work, and you'd like to support me, then feel free to join the Patreon, and I'd really appreciate it. Special thank you to all the people that support me at the moment, these wonderful people that consistently back my work. I appreciate you greatly. I cannot say thank you enough. And on that note, I'll catch you on the next one.